Well, hi, Marshall. Here we are again. You know, I'm like a big fan of you and everything that you do. You've made a huge impact on my work, but also on my personal life, who I am and how I operate. So I seen that you have a training coming up for the World Association for Sand. I always stumble on the words, sand therapy professionals. And this group of people that runs this organization is literally just they do such amazing, beautiful work. So you're going to be teaching on sand poetry and play, integrating therapies and increasing access to the innermost places. And I love the way you even word things. It makes me think about the recent training that I went to yours in Austin at your workshop. Learned a lot, bought a lot of every book that you recommended. I've gotten since then. But can you talk a little bit about this training that's coming up?
Yeah, and thanks for chatting with me. I always feel just so still when I get to talk to you. So thanks for the relationship. I really appreciate you. And I do love this organization. I was lucky enough to be on the board of directors as they were getting organized in their opening months. And then more recently moved over to the advisory board. And this is a training I'm doing for them just to support the organization as they try to more and more build an infrastructure, because their mission is to try and create a truly inclusive space for sand healing practices of all theories and across the world. So it's a wonderful organization for anyone who is curious about it, looking to serve, be involved, be a member, to know about training events. You can go to worldsandtherapy.org. Um, this particular training, it feels probably like uh, the most inclusive of all of me
Yeah.
in one event. You know, these disciplines that I've been with my whole career of sand and poetry and play therapies coming together. That what I really believe is multimodal work increases access to everything,
Yeah.
you know, and especially what all three of these modalities have in common is that there is both a left brain and a right brain component to them. You know, even poetry as a language, it's language oriented enough that it has some left energy, but it's so sensory and rhythmic and condensed and rich that it has this real right presence to it. And so I think the more we can layer modalities into one another, the more we um, include all people, all bodies, all minds into the work. And then what's inclusive of people externally is going to mirror itself and be inclusive of all parts internally. And so I'm hopeful to kind of talk about the theoretical integration, but more of a felt sense of what it's like to fluidly move amongst these different expressive modalities.
Yeah, so sand, poetry, and play. The word that's coming to mind is integration when you're talking about like left and right hemisphere. And I know you pointed me towards Bonnie Botnock's work, and she talks about those just the inner communities, and I learned about that from you as well. So like the language piece and also the felt sense at the same time,
Mhm.
what they all have in
Yeah.
common.
Because they all start with like image and motion and emotion, and then they move to some version of story or rhythmic language.
Oh,
You know, if you're in play therapy, the dynamic of the play comes in, and then the lilt of the story from the client or the reflection of the therapist. Same in sand, it starts with movement and creation and image, and then we welcome in narrative. Poetry is similar, right? It starts with these images, accessing those parts of self, and then just learning to be descriptive and embodied in the way that you put it down on paper. So they're all co-occurring. You know, if you're doing sand work, you're probably speaking poetically and bringing dynamics of play into it. And so we might as well be more aware because it's happening anyway.
Yes. Oh, I just had an aha moment. And I've taken your poetry training at a recent conference in neuroscience of play therapy. And that's changed my work. And I've, had that workshop. But it just, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about like the felt sense to its story. Deb Dana talks about, and Dr. Stephen Porges, the creator of the polyvagal theory, talks about bringing that neuroception, that felt sense, to perception, like being able to have 80% of what we gather, the information is sensory. Okay.
I do love that polyvagal introduction of material there, of neuroception to perception, and even the way that Deb writes about intertwined states along the way of learning to hold some sense of ventral with the sympathetic, or ventral with the dorsal, so that instead of it just being arousal or collapse, it's becoming play and rest when you bring ventral energy into it. And I do think the more we layer modalities, the more multimodal we are, we're giving more and more of a chance for our nervous system to practice intertwining those states and accessing all of those internally stored places. So I think that's a beautiful crossover, Jackie.
I love it. It's saying like put ventral in with your sympathetic state, and she has you. I'm totally giving off on a tangent, but this is like it's like bursting out of me. She has you like create glimmers. Like, what's your glimmer? What's these little positive little? I think of them as little sparkles during the day. And you, for me, are a glimmer. So I can literally be in this difficult session. And we were talking a little bit about this in a different context before the recording, but I can be in this difficult, painful session. And then I have this little ventral vagal of what I've learned from Marshall, what I know from Marshall, my little inner Marshall inside. And it is enough to change like everything. Like when we're in a difficult state, like she used like anchor, have this little anchor in ventral, the little toe in ventral, and it's a game changer. So you're you're my ventral. You're an anchor for me, my glimmer, my sparkle, Marshall.
Right back at you, friend.
So okay, so there's my dog barking. But what we'll do is when you're wherever you're watching this video, whether it's on YouTube or wherever you see it on Facebook, you'll see a link to register for the training. Now, if you make this training, it's going to be amazing. If you're watching this after the training, be sure to visit Marshall's website, as there's some ongoing trainings right there at your workshop in Austin, Texas. Can you quickly verbally just say the address that they can type into your
Yeah,
URL to find out?
if you go to my name, Marshall Lyles, so it's got three L's in the middle, .com, and I have, a couple of things left this year around EMDR and sand and poetry. Next year, it's going to be all about healing for healers. So we're going to have sand weekends and poetry weekends and multimodal weekends where therapists just come together and take care of each other using our arts. And I'll be offering myself as guide through that. And then also go to worldsandtherapy.org to check out what the organization is doing. Even though I'm winding up my service, I'm going to continue to be as much a supporter of their work as possible, because they're doing something really important for the field of sand therapy.
Yeah, it's a beautiful organization, as is your workshop too. So I'm excited as that unfolds. Well, Marshall, thank you so much. And I do want to make a shout out for you're going to be one of the main speakers at the Playful EMDR Summit here in Cocoa Beach, or near where I live. So I'll put a link below the video to that if anybody wants some EMDR knowledge from you. Just a wealth of knowledge. All right. Thank you. You take care. Catch you later.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Jackie.